time now to have a look at the idea of drawing some flowers. And flowers are often quite intimidating because, they're complicated. It's very easy to get lost in that sort of myriad of petals and details and everything going on. And often that might stop us or make us scared, or when it's not perfect and our flower doesn't look exactly like the flower in front of us, we stop here. We go, this unfinished piece of art, this unfinished drawing isn't good enough, and so we stop. But remember, we can simplify and break things down into those lovely simple shapes. One of my favourite things to draw is a sunflower. And how would I simplify that? Well, we can think about the elements. And again, we're going to think about the elements and then fill up our page, of course, with lovely little flower doodles. So what's the elements of our sunflower, which is a lovely flowery flower? Well, we've got that kind of centre, haven't we? We don't want it to be a hard circle, so we'll make it a bit softer. We'll make it a bit more interesting. We'll make it have that varied line, that varied weight of line, which will give us a kind of fun texture. On the outside, it's then got petals, and the petals are, a petal shape, I guess. What do you want to call that? It's a pretty classic petal shape. There's lots of ways we could think about it, but you can also literally think of it in a sense of it's a petal. And then we just find those. But again, they're not neat, are they? They're little sort of ragged things. They're overlapping. Some of them are much shorter. Some of them will be weirdly long. There's no sense in me trying to find a sunflower and exactly capture that sunflower exactly as it is. Because if the wind blew, this petal might bend over and perhaps this one would be gone completely. And then I take 2 steps to the left and suddenly these ones over here look a lot longer or a lot shorter. So instead we're focusing on the ideas, and the ideas are this central circle and these petal shapes, these sort of triangular or tear shapes that are all the way around, and they're chaotic and random and overlapping. So we get that idea, that sense, and not the perfect exact sunflower, but now we are building up our sunflower. We can have our circle, our petals. What needs to go sort of else with that? Well, there's a couple of things. There's obviously a stem. Again, not rigid. Remember, it's not a rigid, hard thing, is it? So the stem sort of tends to not be in the perfect middle. It doesn't go straight down. It will wibble and wobble around. So we can find that. And it's got little sort of bits coming off it. It's also sort of almost hairy. If you've ever been near, which I imagine you have, been near a sunflower, really paid attention. It's got a sort of hairy stalk, as many bigger flowers and plants do. And coming down, it's also got leaves. Leaves are almost like bigger petals. They're a little smoother, they're a little more uniform. You can just do these sort of swooping marks for them, and then we start coming back and thinking, how do we get that sort of feel of the weight and the shape, and the textural marks? They've got these little sort of veiny textures going up, haven't they? And we can just start capturing that. And it might be that they're funny shapes because of how they're overlapping and things like that. It might be that you notice half of them are in shadow. So we get this idea that, look, the underside of these leaves are in shadow. Then the light might be making one side of the stalk a little darker than the other. And then we can come back and we can really focus our sort of variation of line to make the important parts of the sunflower come forward and to start getting those textures. So we've got the kind of little, sunflower seeds, haven't we, in the centre? So we can imagine those as simple textures filling up the centre, but it won't completely fill it in the sense that we're also trying to get that shadow. So look, we've got shadow on this side of the stalk, we've got shadow on these sides of the leaves. So the shadow is going to be on the underside and the left of this centre as well. So we leave a little bit blank and we have this naturalistic hatching. We built up, instead of simple lines like this, we built up our little sunflower sort of seed doodle shapes. And then we've got our petals, which we've already gently marked in. We can bring them out. And again, not every single one. They're chaotic, they're overlapping. So now our lines are showing which ones are in front, which are behind. Where are there little bits of darkness? They tend to be sort of yellow, don't they? But they aren't uniformly yellow. They're yellow and orange, even red or brown. In places you might find there's little black dots. So we can even have really dark lines or little smudges. Even if we want to be very clever, we'll start smudging our ink a little bit and really creating that sense of more flowing, naturalistic feel to our lines. And up here there's more light, so maybe we leave our lines up here a little lighter. And already through the addition of these shapes, circle, whatever we're calling this, a line or a long rectangle, we have, I mean, it's not amazing, is it? It's not the world's best sunflower, but it's pretty cool, it's pretty fun, and it didn't take us long. And if you wanted to build on that, you can immediately start seeing how you could build and build and build. Or if you are like me and you value having fun with your art, well, I've had fun and I've created a lovely little sunflower. And now we can take these same elements, these same ideas, and start imagining other flowers in a really simple way. Perhaps bluebells, and we can just get those by getting the elements, the ideas of a bluebell on our page. The ideas are these kind of, well, bell-like shapes, these long and fun leaves, and often loads and loads of these bell-like shapes going into the distance. So we just sort of keep building them up, and we can have a few on their own, and we can have a few which are nicely linked to their stems as well. We could have a poppy on the other side. A poppy's got that lovely dark centre, and then it's got these bigger sort of almost more rectangular petals, often in a couple of layers. So we've got these kind of overlapping shapes and a very simple stem, coming down to a little bit more of a complex leaf. But is the leaf the important bit? If it is for you, then brilliant, take care over it. If it's not important, keep that line light and come back and focus your attention on creating the bit which for you makes the poppy a poppy. And for me, that's going to be these kind of lovely overlapping simple leaf shapes. And if you wanted, of course, to add colour, brilliant, add some colour, and that is absolutely going to show your poppy off as a poppy. As soon as you make this red, these simple visual cues are what really help the viewer to understand what we're trying to do. What else could we do? Well, we can just keep moving around our page, filling it up. Let's do a simple daisy next. So daisy is going to be a small central element with a few visible dots, and then around the outside we'll have these more sort of stringy petals, these sort of more spiky little petals. And sometimes these things just need a little bit of repetition. And the key is not, again, to focus on the exact number of petals, but to focus on the idea, the sort of overwhelming, but overriding element, which is the sense and direction of these leaves. And even you could build up a couple, couldn't you? You could do some in the background, which you pay less attention to, you keep lighter. You could even leave them a little bit unfinished and then make the one in the foreground a little bolder, and you've got a bit more of an interesting kind of composition of different overlapping petals and leaves and flowers and things like that. So there you go. There's our couple of daisies, one in the distance, one much closer in the foreground. Something which is really fun to be able to draw is the idea of holly. Not really a plant, not really a flower, sorry, it's definitely a plant, not really a flower, but you just get these spiky leaves. Brilliant thing to be able to draw for, of course. the festive period. You can add it to, drawings of birds, which we're going to be doing very shortly when we start moving on to birds and animals and things like that. And what comes with the holly? These little balls, these little red sort of fruit can just come alongside it. And again, another lovely place where you could, if you want to start branching into colour, you could start branching straight into that colour and really enhancing these drawings with anything, with watercolour, with ink, with pencils, marker pens. There's millions of ways that you can start moving forward with these very simple ideas. And just like that, it's time to fill up the rest of our page. So think of some other ideas. Perhaps you've got flowers in the garden around the house, or just some favourite flowers that you would love to think about, and think about how to draw more simply, more effectively. Here I've got tulips, rose, a daffodil. Really simple ideas. And like I said at the beginning, we can come back to those bluebells and just neaten them up by restating a few of those lines. Before you know it, your page will be bustling with life, looking really pretty, really beautiful, absolutely chock-a-block with beautiful flowers using very simple techniques. Don't forget you can create fun little doodles, drawing and connecting those flowers all around your page, and just have fun, experiment, and of course, feel good about what you create.